Welcome to my channel. This is JC Rock and Metal Reviews. I'm doing another album review this weekend by the band Sponge. They're like this 90s alternative rock band from Detroit, Michigan. But before I begin, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. I do rock and metal reviews, rankings, and a lot more. So like I said, this was that 90s band. You probably remember the hit Plowed, and let me just jump into a little clip of that. So yeah, Sponge was part of that whole alternative rock, grunge, or post-grunge scene. You know, they were part of that like after the grunge movement, that came out in 1994. So they were, along with those different bands like Weezer, Soul Asylum, Candlebox, Dinosaur Jr., Gin Blossoms, Stone Roses. Those are the ones that come to mind. Those bands that came like right after the grunge movement. But like I said before, they are from Detroit, and they do list bands like MC5, The Stooges, Iggy Pop, David Bowie, Velvet Underground, and Alice Cooper and Bob Seger as influences. Although you don't really hear it as much, but they do come from, that musical background. So other than that, the band's biggest hit, Plowed, the one I just played for you, there was Molly, 16 Candles Down the Drain. I remember that one very well. It was a fairly big hit in the mid-90s. And another song called Wax Ecstatic to Sell Angelina. This one I didn't recognize, and it kind of makes me wonder if the Wax Ecstatic channel with Tuco, I wonder if he took that name from the song. Maybe he did. But anyway, the name of the album is called Lavatorium. It is their 9th album, the first album in 6 years, so the last one was 2016. Has 12 songs, 49 minutes, and they do include a re-recording of the song Plowed. I'll mention that at the end. So the first song is called Stitch. And this one sounds a lot like Alice in Chains. It kind of has that vibe, but mixed with a little bit of that modern rock. Vocals sound very good. Does have like a slightly darker tone to it. The guitars sound just as good as it did on the previous songs. Kind of has like a slightly distorted tone. I like that part of it. The overall sound is kind of a mixture of like grunge, pop, and like noise rock. So that's kind of like what we're getting with this album. Next song, Catastrophilia. It's a little slower. It has that like brooding Alice in Chains vibe going on again. Vocalist Vinnie Dombroski, he's definitely channeling like Lane Staley here in this song. The guitars are grungy, they're distorted, and if you like 90s alternative rock, you'll definitely like this song. The next one's called Night of the Drunken Cobra, and it starts out with like a heavy drum beat, some thick like pounding riffs, some pounding drum beat. This one reminds you a little bit more of Stone Temple Pilot, mixed with a little bit of like punk rock. It does have a little bit of that. Song moves at a steady pace, not too fast, not too slow. The distorted guitars kind of give it like a little bit of like a dark tone. There is a breakdown with some acoustic guitars that kind of remind me a little of that like band Days of the New. And that Lane Staley sound is still here. I do like that. Next is the song called Socially Distant, and this is an ode to 2020, and we've heard that a lot from a lot of artists this year. It's kind of a slow acoustic ballad. The band changes the tone a little bit. Still has that dark tone that was present on the other songs, but this one's probably more like radio friendly given the topic of the song, and it's an acoustic ballad, but it still has that like 90s grunge sound. Next is Fits My Addiction, and the two kind of change it up a little bit here. It's a little more upbeat, has like a brighter tone to it. It still has that grunge sound, but it's not really as dark as their first couple of songs. The distorted guitar is still there. The riffs do have a kind of nice crunch to them. But this is probably another one of those like radio-friendly songs. Next is On the Dead Highway. This one sounds a little different. Straight ahead alternative rock, mixed with a little bit of that like noise rock. There's little touches of feedback here and there. Backing vocals in the chorus sound pretty good. It gives it a really nice touch. They still channel Alice in Chains a little bit on this song as well. Has a pretty cool like wah-wah effects on the guitar solo. It kind of reminds me of like a Jerry Cantrell solo. Well, that's another good one. Next is the song Sorry. This one's a little more laid back. Has some clean guitars in the intro. It's a mid-pace rocker. Has a little bit more of like a dark tone again. Has that 90s early grunge sound to it. And I really like the lyrics to this. There's one part of the song where it says the line, all the way down to the breakdown, all the way down to the takedown. I thought that was a pretty clever lyric. And other than that, pretty decent song. Next is the title track, Lavatorium. It's a little slower, has some dirty, distorted guitars. One of the slow songs, mixes a little heavy parts and light parts here and there. Does have a 90s sound to it. And the next couple of songs are a little different. They kind of like change the sound a little bit here. So next is If Cobain Was a Cowboy. So from the title, you kind of know exactly what that's about. Like I said, they changed their tone. It's like 90s grunge meets modern country. So kind of picture Alice in Chains with Lane Staley doing like an unplugged version of like a country song, and that's kind of what you get with this one. I do like the originality of it, and I do like the thick bass sound. I like that one a lot. Next is Devil in the Field. This one changes it up again. It's a blues rock song, has some piano and grungy guitars, and this time they're channeling the 90s blues rockers, the Black Crowes. They do mix a little bit of like country and grunge into it as well. A lot different than the other songs, but it's just a welcome change. You know, a lot of the songs did sound kind of the same at the beginning. Do like the slide guitar riffs and kind of a nice change of pace with this one. Next is All I Ever Wanted. It's the closing track. It's a slow building acoustic song, has a dark tone. Kind of reminds me of Days of the New, or maybe even like Crash Test Dummies. The band does come in like halfway through. It does have like a different tone to it. It's slow, it's dark, but it kind of closes out the album nicely. And at the tail end of the album is the re-recording of the song Plowed. It is faithful to the original, but it does have a little more of like a live recording, or maybe like a garage band feel. I think the original recording was a little more polished than this one, but if you like the song, it's pretty cool. That's it. In conclusion, this was an album I wasn't really expecting to review, but I did like the overall like throwback to the 90s alternative and grunge sound. So if you like bands like Alice in Chains, you'll definitely like this album. It's fairly consistent in the songwriting. The production is good. They do change their sound a little bit towards the end when they do introduce some other like influences of like country and blues. But it was a welcome change, you know, after like listening to a lot of songs that do have kind of the same tone. I'll give this album an 8 out of 10 just because I am a big fan of the 90s alternative, and I haven't really heard much of that from bands this year. I have been hearing a lot of like metal and hard rock, but this was a welcome change. You know, I do love the 90s, so that's why I like this one. And that's it. Comment below if you've heard them or if you've listened to them throughout the years. I haven't really heard them since the 90s, but they have been around, so let me know if you've heard them. That's it. Coming up next, I will be continuing my series of reviewing the Iron Maiden albums in descending order. So I guess the next one I will be doing is A Matter of Life and Death, and I'll probably do that one tomorrow. I don't have any more new releases. So that's it. Like, comment, subscribe, check out the other videos. I'll throw them up right there. And see you in the next one.